Good morning, everyone, and wake up, college football. That is the show, and that is the directive this morning. To me, to everyone, wake up and greet the day. Hopefully, your day is off to a good start. Mine is. And hopefully, if it's off to a bad start, take a deep breath, take a little inventory. Understand that I hope everything's truly fine. Maybe it's just hassles, bad hair day, can't find anything. I had one of those days yesterday. I'm still in the middle of moving in, and it just seems like every time I turn around, I'm trying to find something, and which should be easy in a sense because I just moved in, and just the things that I've put in place, yes, but the things that came with me that maybe I didn't need for 7 or 8 weeks, I suddenly need, and who knows where they are. So it seems like that every time I head out somewhere or whatever. So I think most of us realize that some of these momentary frustrations are nothing to be concerned about once we take a little bit bigger perspective on things. So if you've had a good morning, love it. Keep it going, keep it rolling, keep it positive. Bad morning, time to turn it around. Hopefully we can be the cure, or at least give you just a little nudge of encouragement and positivity this morning. So appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football for Wake Up College Football and a 21st edition. Let's check out the chat. Let's do that. We've got a busy, oh man, I hate that word. And I say that to people all the time. When they ask me what's going on, I tell them how busy I am. Dumb word, hate the word. Is it got some truth to it? Of course it does. But should it be a busy day here at the Voice of College Football? If it's just a busy day, then who cares? Nobody has a reason to check us out. It's going to be a great day at the Voice of College Football. We do have this show here. We've got at 10 a.m. Eastern time. And yes, somebody asked me last night, they said, Mark, why would you do a Pac-12? Did you forget? They're on the West Coast. A Pac-12 all-time rankings reaction show at 10 o'clock in the morning Eastern time, lest we forget, 7 o'clock in the West Coast. Why would you do that? Well, number one, just between us, I don't think anybody's too interested in my Pac-12 rankings. But as a point of kicking off the series, putting a bow on the Pac-12, actually, in a sense, they're the most relevant and the most important and the most meaningful of our rankings because they're done. The book is closed. The book is closed on the Pac-12. So we're going to go live, and mostly because of my scheduling. And I thought, let's get it done. Let's get it launched. We got to get this thing rolling. And we're going to start with the Pac-12 and build momentum as we go. So we got to get this thing going, get it rolling, and look at my schedule this week. And I don't have much time. And we're going to get in our all-time program rankings. And you're saying, Mark, you already did that. Yes, we want to hear from you. Comments, questions in the chat. We're taking calls. We're going to march through all the conferences. And then on Friday night, national rankings review and your comments and questions and calls. Because I have received many suggestions, many criticisms, and a whole lot of people that just can't really add things up. So there needs to be some clarification. Unfortunately, those aren't the people that call me. So as Erica reminded me the other day, Mark, you're not going to get those knuckleheads to call you because they're just trolls. And boy, I'm being kind. They're trolls. And I've learned in social media, actually, I thought troll was a negative term. It's really a neutral term. I used to think it was a negative term if you call somebody a troll, but it's not necessarily a negative term. So I've learned on social media. So I've learned. I've learned more than I would like to learn. So yes, we are live at 10 a.m. Eastern with Pac-12 all-time rankings reacts. So I'm going to run through the point system, run through our rankings, which I've already done. So check out the video. Don't want to do too much explanation because there's a video out there. So for anyone that wants to comment, question, call, forget our show right now. Watch the Pac-12 rankings video, and then we're going to take your calls, and we're going to put a final seal on the Pac-12. And then, if nothing happens in college football that draws my attention, 6 o'clock Eastern, ACC program rankings reaction show. So you can watch that here on the main channel, the Miami channel, the Clemson channel, the Florida State channel. So that's coming up. That is coming up. That is coming up. Yes, today, Monday, 6 p.m. Eastern time. 7 p.m. Eastern time, got our Texas show with Matthew Miller. Okay. I will not be there. Matthew, fully capable. Join him on the Texas channel. Does a remarkable job covering Texas football. We need to support Matthew. He's doing a heck of a job on the Texas channel. So 7 p.m. Eastern time, the Texas show. I believe Joey's got his show at 7 Eastern on the West Virginia channel, some kind of AI show that I don't know anything about. They ask AI questions, and I'll do a poor job of explaining it. Check it out. I believe that's at 7 o'clock Eastern time. All Joey shows either 7 or 8. 7 or 8, just about every night. So the West Virginia channel, 7 Eastern tonight. And then at 10 Eastern, Trojan Conquest Live. That's coming up tonight with Tim, Matt, and myself. Full day at the Voice of College Football. Well, I received some sobering news on Friday. So that was, of course, our 1 day off here at Wake Up College Football. It's Friday. Oh, I was going to go to the chat first. 5 Adam. Roll Tide, good morning from Tuscaloosa. Or spelled incorrectly, or there's an emphasis on Tascaloosa. Maybe it's stated that way. I lived within an hour of Tuscaloosa for 6 to 7 years. Right across the state line. Was telling a story last night to some friends in which I crossed said state line. At that point, yes, Route 82, and the speed limit dropped from 70 to 55. I didn't take too kindly to that. I got pulled over, and maybe it's a story from here that wouldn't necessarily draw the best of reviews. So I'm going to just say I got a ticket. Let's say I got a ticket. I went to court, and that ticket still did not get paid. Let's just leave it at that. We'll just leave it at that. All right. Back in the day when I used to rack up tickets like nobody's business. Nobody's business. Boy, we could spend a show on the car incidents. Not too many crashes. And I believe none my fault. But it's been a long time since I got sideswiped. Well, more than sideswiped. Got my car totaled about 2016. Yeah. This month, 2016. That would be my last incident on the road. I've not had a ticket for quite some time, but had so many points on my license when I was first in Mississippi, or throughout my time in Mississippi. Yeah. I almost didn't get my license back. Anyway, enough of that. I don't know why that came up. Tuscaloosa. I'll blame 5 Adam there. Ferris is here. Go Blue from Michigan. Back, but with jet lag this morning. Wore my Michigan championship hat all throughout Italy. Got all kinds of reactions. Yeah, fortunately, you made it back. Yes, there you have Ferris probably given us even more fodder overseas in regards to those comments and that perception of ugly Americans, bad Americans, yeah, all of that. So let's be careful with the Michigan gear overseas. You know, our reputation overseas is pretty awful these days. Ate at 3 different breakfast buffets in Italy. All of them had baked beans. Wow, been a long time since I had baked beans. I did like baked beans as a kid and young adult with a lot of brown sugar and goodies in there to spice it up, to liven it up, sweeten it up. Kind of like that for breakfast. Now, would Mark eat baked beans for breakfast? No. Can't see that myself doing that. I do like baked beans, or at least I did. It would have been a long time ago. You know, sometimes things seem like they were a long, long time ago. Maybe it's been 5 years, 7 years, 8 years, something like that since I had baked beans. I can't remember exactly when. But I'm not going to make myself baked beans, number one. I'm not going to order them out. And I guess I just haven't been to any kind of picnic activity in which there were baked beans. Oh, wait a minute. No, that was chili. We had a church social after church. This was about a year ago. And there was a big chili cook-off contest prize. And there were like 22 different kind of chilies. Sorry, that was chili. All right. Happy good morning to all from Joey Foster. Again, the West Virginia channel tonight, folks. Franklin Fanatic, good to see you. Ralph, good to see you as well. Ralph was correcting me on one of the rankings videos several times, correcting me in quotes. Had a number of people correct me. And so with Ralph, it wasn't like he was spewing any false information. So let's get that straight. Ralph coming from a place of great knowledge there. However, maybe a few things need to be explained. And so we will get to that in the Pac-12 reaction show. But let's just put it this way. I'm kind of my own man and have a brain for myself. And as I posted on X the other day, one of the big issues in current society is people don't think for themselves. So learn to think for yourself. All right, Keith, good morning. We should get Tyler from Spartanburg on. I have no idea what that means. Moonshoe. Yeah, Chris Fowler was big on saying Michigan. That's where I got that. I know a lot of people from Michigan, throughout my life. And I never got that. I never, like the whole Minnesota, I can't do it. I've never tried to do it. That's my first attempt ever. Minnesota, or however they say it, that I get. I've known people from that area of the country, and I hear that in their voice. The Michigan thing, I don't know where that came from. I know a lot of Michigan people, they don't talk like that. So I don't know where that came from, but it must be true somewhere. Ralph said it was weird watching the Voice of College Football Marathon yesterday. Most people did not know that it was not live, especially the 30 to 40 people at 8 a.m. We figured it out after 2 hours. 30 to 40 people at 8 a.m.? Well, it started at 10 a.m. Regardless, yes, that we did a marathon yesterday. Check it out. Just jump in there. I just went through and I grabbed every video and live stream that I could find that dealt with our championship analysis. This will come into play in our program rankings because national championships, I'm not just taking what the AP or what the claimed national championships tell me, but I need to sort through all that. So I may not get to it. So we are probably going to have a little smattering of both. I have generally just taken what the services say and what the information on Google says about claimed national championships verbatim, and just put that number in as the national championship number. But we know better than that here at the Voice of College Football. Of course, we did a huge series last offseason, where I went through all the national championships, and many of them are bogus. Most of them are not necessarily bogus, that particular team did not earn a national championship. It's more so, and some people aren't going to like this, and I don't like it on the surface, but it's only fair, it's only just, that most of those seasons prior to 1998, prior to the BCS championship, and even some during the BCS era, none during the playoff era, I have certified, confirmed all of those championships as legitimate. However, during the playoff era, there are teams that have been left out that had just as good a credentials as the teams in the playoffs. Now, I'm not going to just say, well, UCF should have gotten a shot in 2017 and 2018, therefore I'm going to award them a national championship. Doesn't necessarily work that way. Ohio State in 2018 should have been in the playoff. I'm going to give them a national championship. Well, of course not. They would have had to defeat. They only had a fringe resume for a playoff spot. It was debatable, arguable, and then they would have had to defeat two of the best teams in the country. So I'm not awarding just stretches like that. Just this could have happened. No, that's a reach. We are only adding to national championships based on the credentials on the field. So again, the playoff era not touched, although I do give many considerations to teams that should have been given an opportunity. We go back to the BCS era. It's different. In 2004, Auburn should have a national championship. They should claim a national championship. You go undefeated, you're the SEC champion. They have the right to claim a national championship. And if they're not going to do it, I'm going to do it for them. Auburn, 2004 national champion. Well, you say, Mark, there was a Orange Bowl between two undefeated teams. Yes, USC is the national champion as well. There are going to be multiple. When you play a dumb system where teams don't play each other, when you have as stupid a system as college football had for years and years and years and years, and still does to a certain extent, although it gets cleaned up with the playoff pretty well, then you're going to have multiple champions. I think we have 5 champions in 1977. 1978, Alabama is the national champion. USC beat them head-to-head by 2 scores in Tuscaloosa. And they've got the same record. So USC claim a national championship. And I know that there is random services out there that do give them a national championship, but they don't have an official one, I do not believe, for 1978. So yes, USC, national champion. One more example, then we'll not dive into it because I'm going to be talking about these examples all week. 1983. Okay. 1983. Miami, Nebraska, Auburn, Texas, and even if you want to extend it to Georgia with a tie included because they beat Texas, all those teams had the same basic resume. Let's start there. 11-1 or 12-1. Okay. Why is Miami the sole national champion? Well, it's because there's a poll, and if I'm an AP writer in 1983, I would have split my vote if that were possible. I don't know if they could. Yeah, they split votes. I wouldn't want to split the last vote, but I would want to bring attention, however, to the antiquated, stupid system. So I would have been like, okay, no, I'm going to split this vote between Miami and Auburn, but it goes beyond that. It goes way beyond that. For some reason, bowl games are treated by some people as playoff games. They're not playoff games. They were just an additional game against a really good opponent that should be taken into the equation. So when you look at the entirety of college football history, especially getting into the 60s, 70s, 80s, that era, especially when there are multiple bowl games, many bowl games at some point, and certainly the New Year's games took hold, that's another data point. It's not an elimination game. You shouldn't be eliminated from a national championship when it's understood that this was considered an exhibition game a couple decades ago. Nothing officially changed. Just we started to think of them as big games, and they were big games. It's just another data point. So why can't Nebraska share a national championship in 1983? Well, you say that, well, Miami beat them. Fair enough. Beat them in their home stadium on a failed 2-point conversion. It's still a win. A win's a win. I'm not taking away a win or a national championship from Miami, but I am saying that Miami lost a game by 4 touchdowns. Okay. So they were 11-1. Nebraska was 12-1. We saw what happened on the field, that it came down to the last second. Okay. Meanwhile, at Auburn, they win the Sugar Bowl. They finish 11-1. Their schedule is 10 times tougher than Miami's. Ridiculous schedule that Auburn played in 1983. They went 11-1 as the SEC champion, won the Sugar Bowl. Where's their claim to a national championship? I am like the biggest Auburn lover in the world. They should love me on the plains. Another national championship. Well, if you give Auburn a national championship in 1983, guess what you have to do with Texas? Texas, 11-0 before the Cotton Bowl. They lose the Cotton Bowl by 1 point. One lousy point, but it's a loss. But it only drops them to 11-1. And guess what? Texas went to Auburn and won by 2 touchdowns. Everybody forgets that. You know why people forget that in this argument? The argument's always about, Nebraska was still this great. Maybe they should have a share of the national championship. Or that Auburn did the same thing as Miami, plus played a tougher schedule. Why don't they get to share the national championship? But what about Texas? You know why people eliminate Texas? Recency bias in the schedule. And this strange thought, and I kind of get it because we watched the NFL the next day, that bowl games are playoff games. They're not playoff games. It's just an extra game. They're not playoff games. There is no elimination factor to bowl games. None, zero. It's just another game. Therefore, Texas lost a game at the end of the year, just like Auburn lost a game in September and Miami lost a game in September. We don't wait the games, okay? And so Texas, you're going to love me, Texas fans. 1983, you are the national champion as well. And when it's all said and done, Georgia's the tough call because they've got a tie in there. So I got to go back through and evaluate all of that. I didn't want to go down that road, but the point being, when some people will comment, oh, well, they've got 10 national championships, not 11 national championships or whatever is on my board. You know what? Screw what Google and claimed national championships tell us. We're not relying on schools just because a school claims the national championship doesn't mean that they should have a national championship, number one. Number two, just because faulty, clueless writers tell us that a particular team should have a national championship, or again, my emphasis is more on not taking away those championships because most of those were earned, the great majority. It's more about including others who had just as much a claim for a national championship. So some may not like it, but we're going to have multiple national champions almost every year. So that's the way the setup was. They didn't have a good way of pitting teams against each other that should have been playing. So the championships that you are going to see this week are probably going to be just taken from the AP and Wikipedia and what they've got. But when I get a chance to fully vet it out, we have vetted it out. Check out the series we did this offseason last year during the offseason. We went through every decade, went through the explanation of why the national championship should be changed in some, typically added to. And no, I don't like having 4 national champions for a particular year. But if you're going to have 2, the logic, if 2 are justified, the logic would be that 3 could be justified or 4 could be justified if nobody's playing each other. All right. Or if you want to play the head-to-head, which is, of course, extremely valid in that 1983 scenario. Do you know who your national champion should be? If you want to play the head-to-head, Miami knocked out Nebraska and Texas knocked out Auburn. So it should be Texas and Miami as the national champions. And then what do you do with Georgia? Well, they tied a game, but they beat Texas. Does the tie eliminate them? I can go with that thinking, that reasoning, but also 10-1-1 versus 11-1, and you won the game, albeit 10-9. Yeah, it's a mess. That's what college football has been. So we are going with our national championships here at the Voice of College Football because they are so much more reasonable and make sense. Again, never claim to be perfect because there are scenarios that are extremely difficult to vet, and there's not a specific dividing line like, okay, that's the criteria and they made it, they did not. There are some wild, weird scenarios that are difficult and you got to make a judgment call. All right. DDR 256 and everybody else here. Mark overslept. Must have been that marathon live stream from yesterday. Yes, I was killing it for what, about 12 and a half hours. All right. Good morning to everybody else here. And if you've got anything, you can get my attention with a super chat. If you've got anything in regards to, of course, breakfast, and then also, of course, anything that I said that we can take exception to. Anyway, okay. So I had stated that we got some sobering news on Friday. Some sobering news on Friday. And so not to ruin anyone's day, or on the bright side, it may actually add to your day, maybe a good note of your day that you don't need to necessarily get up with us Monday through Thursday now. So on Friday, I get a note from corporate. And yes, I understand most of you just think that I run this operation, that I'm the guy, but no, I'm just a cog in the machine. So Voice of College Football corporate contacted me on Friday. I'm a bit shocked and surprised that they even remember I exist, but I do get a lot of airtime here, if you've noticed. So I get a memo from corporate, and they basically said, remember that cockamamie idea that you had for this morning show? Is that still on? Are you doing that thing? What is that? And then they had to go into their video library and pull it up to say, oh yeah, you're still doing that. Nobody's watching. We're not watching. Nobody knows what's going on. What's the deal here? You're killing us with this. Now, we knew it was a stupid idea. And I was like, wow, I thought it was a good idea. I thought we had a good idea here. Talk to the folks every day, talk about random stupid things that are fun to talk about. We talked about musical acts the other day and talked about artists that we like and despise and all that. I love those conversations. My intent for this show was, yeah, we'll get to the headlines. We'll get to the headlines. Just picture somebody in 1975. They want to get to the sports headlines, but actually if they get a phone call from a buddy, or they've got an interesting spouse or significant other or kids in the house or whatever, whoever's there, that they'll get diverted from the newspaper if they've got better conversation in the house. And that's what happens here. I get pulled into conversations here, or I bring stuff up and then you guys play off of it. And that's what I enjoy about this show. That's what I enjoy about this show. So I thought that that was going to work. I thought that just having a freewheeling banter here every morning with a little breakfast caveat to a little breakfast flavor, of course, that's part of the morning, and that we would try out different breakfast items and in all of that, and we would have some people watching, and all of that would kind of work and build. And we've got a different thumbnail, different logo, different color scheme, and we're in the kitchen, different location, all of that put together. It must be that damn wireless mic that doesn't work. That's what did us in. So anyway, I get the note from corporate. They call me into their office. Well, I demanded a meeting, a face-to-face meeting, because the note just wouldn't suffice. And so I had a conference call with corporate, and they said, this thing is just running us into the ground. My goodness, you're killing us with this thing. This thing is just a disaster. It's a failure top to bottom. And I said, man, I enjoy it. I love it. It's getting me up at 7 o'clock in the morning, number one. Number two, it's getting my day off to a great start. I get to interact with everyone, and we have a great time. And they said, well, it's just costing us way too much money. Mark, are you kidding me? This thing's a joke. And I was like, well, I couldn't really argue with that. Couldn't really argue with that. So the decision, we've done 21 shows. So we did 5 weeks, and then this is day one of week number 6. And so they pulled the plug on us. They pulled the plug and said, Mark, the show's a disaster. We thought it was a bad idea. You sold us on it. I thought it was a great idea. I was wrong. And so we have done our last week of college football. But I do want to thank all of you for being here, because it's been so much fun. But I had to do a lot of groveling and a lot of pleading and begging just to keep my position here at the Voice of College Football, because obviously my idea was a complete and utter failure. So we thought we had a good idea, but apparently not. So what we are going to try to do, and so I'm going to take the rest of the week. We're going to take next week off, at least in regards to this show. And I'm going to take as much time off next week as possible. One of the most precious people in the world is visiting me. So I'm taking next week off for the most part. Something pops up, I'll knock it out. I pretty much covered shows. So we're going to take that time off. And then at the beginning of June, I got some wheels spinning. Hopefully I'll sell corporate on this idea of a much cleaner, tighter delivery for our headlines each and every morning. And we will give that a shot. We will give that a shot. So don't be surprised. Actually you can count on seeing me every morning starting at the beginning of June. Now, not necessarily live, but we believe that the headline concept could still work. We will see how that's received, and we will do that. But yes, just too much wasted time, unfortunately. So we will get to the headlines. We will get to the headlines, and we will hear from all of you. And again, remember that this is, yes, John, it's a huge operation here. It's an enormous operation. It's an enormous operation. Okay, hopefully you all got that. So where were we? So I do appreciate all of you being here. What I've enjoyed amongst the banter about stupid things that happen to me, various things, some involving my move and new location, and just dumb things that happen in life that we've talked about. And I loved the music conversation the other day, even though people couldn't believe that I didn't bring up the Stones, which we did. We did talk about the Stones. And somebody hit me up for CCR, said, can't believe that you could talk that long about music and not bring up CCR. Okay, well, try me. I could probably do another lifetime of discussion without CCR. No disrespect to them, but Proud Mary, other people singing it, yeah. And you too, you got to put the emphasis on the right. You too. Anyway, Bono and the boys. Yeah, they were brought up. Several people brought up U2 to say, Mark, you didn't even bring them up. Well, I wasn't trying to make a list of the greatest artists of all time. I don't know where the conversation was exactly, but we did have fun with that one. So appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football for our final edition of Wake Up College Football. So it's good to have a number of regulars in here. And what I was getting to is that there's a lot of people who have shown up here in the mornings that a lot of people that have shown up here in the mornings that I have not seen before. So I don't know if those are new people or those are people that we just don't hear from throughout the day. And this was convenient for them. So if you found us through this show, which based on the numbers that I see every day, I highly, highly doubt that person exists. But maybe you watch the Voice of College Football, but you can't partake during other day parts, but we're able to in the mornings, or just there was something about this show that you thought, hey, this is kind of cool. I'm going to show up for this and make some comments. Then thank you for doing that, because it was nice to be able to see some different names. That was pretty much it, Ferris. There was the business guy, and then there was the creative side. There's always tension within these kind of companies when it comes to the business side and the creative side. And we have done a horrible job of allowing the creative side just to steamroll the business side. That's always been the problem here at the Voice of College Football. Our business side has gotten steamrolled. We have a weak business department. It is horrible. All those people should be fired. They do a terrible job, but the creative side has taken over. And yes, we should have cut ties with a lot of things a long time ago. And we're doing that. We're doing that. We're making better decisions these days. All right. John wants me to spend some time in Europe. I would like to go to Europe sometime. I have never been to Europe. And if I knew that the Rod Farva was in the house, I'd give him a line to never been to Spain, since that's his favorite Elvis song. And I know it's a Three Dog Nights song. It's not an Elvis song. It's an Elvis cover, but he did a remarkable job on it. And the Rod Farva brings that up from time to time. But no, I've never been to Europe. I would like to go to Europe sometime. Although I've gotten to a point in life where a lot of things that I thought at one point, oh, I definitely want to do that. I definitely want to go there. I want to, no, I can my life can be just fine and well fulfilled without going here and there and doing this and that. Like I used to at one point when I was a huge baseball fan, I wanted to go to all the baseball stadiums and thought I'll be able to do that. Got no interest. I would like to go to a Major League Baseball game again. I've not been to one in 6, 7, 8 years, something like that. And I used to go to several every year. And I got to where, Cleveland checked off many times, Pittsburgh, Detroit, Although most of these places I've been to, many of them, I went to the old stadium, so I'd have to go back. But it's not so much to me about looking at a baseball stadium. A lot of people go to these parks because they're more fans of the baseball parks than they are baseball games, watching the baseball on the field. They want to see the park. That wasn't necessarily my intent, but now I don't really care. No, not everything Elvis did was a cover. No. Some people think that. That's not the case. All right. Yeah, Yankee Stadium. I've been to the old, I've been to the new. I have no reason to go back. It was fine. It was good. My kids were into baseball. My son was into baseball. My daughter, we would just drag her along. So I'm good with Yankee Stadium. Been there about 6-7 times. Fine. Don't need to go back. Never understood the allure anyway. It's not an ugly stadium, but it's not. If we didn't know it was Yankee Stadium, it's a pretty generic stadium. Yeah. Ferris says, going to Europe is eye-opening. Europeans love America, despite what you hear. Nature, culture, food is different, totally worth it. Yeah, I would love to do that sometime. When the value is worth it, I will take a trip to Europe, because I would like to do that. And I would like to go with the right company, like to go with the right people, of course. So yeah, I still want to go to Europe. I'm just saying that if I end my life and I've not gone to Europe, that's going to be not even an afterthought of, oh, I missed out on Europe. But I would like to go sometime. That is my number one priority overseas. I would like to go to Hawaii as well. Would like to do that. All right. So again, if you're just joining us, don't wake up for college football tomorrow. No wake up college football. We're done. They gave us the heave-ho. They squashed us. They said, you suck, Mark. You're not doing this anymore. This is pathetic. I said, yes, sir. So we'll come back with something else that's more headline driven, and we will I think what we're doing at this point is starting in June, and we've got some other things that we're going to change going into the season, but that we'll do a headlines deal. Yes, starting in June. I'm reading and talking at the same time, and that is not always something not at this point of the morning that I can do. I've only been on one cruise in my life, had a great time, would like to do that again. Yes. It's all about the people. So basically what's happened in my life is that I got married before most of my friends. So when you get married, then you're kind of in this different category, still hang out with your friends. But in terms of vacations, bit of a disconnect. When I went to ESPN, I was surrounded by single people. I was married. And then I got divorced. They all got married, had kids, and kind of the same thing with at least my close friends. Now, I know a lot of friends who are divorced, but in terms of my close friends, they go on vacation with their spouses. I don't have one. When I had significant others, I did a lot of vacationing then. I had about a good 7 or 8 years, whatever it was, where I did a lot of vacationing with a significant other. but all within the United States. A lot of Vegas, Southern California, Florida, Colorado trips that were fun. But now it's more about, yeah, my best friends were married. They go on vacations with their spouses. Canes Dolphins, good to see you. All right, let's get to the headlines. And keep in mind, at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, we've got our Pac-12 rankings reaction show. We do. Something tells me that our headlines are going to be just a bunch of legal garbage. But it is what it is. Sources: NCAA plan to pay off settlement irks non-Power 5 schools. Okay. As reported by Pete Thamel, as the NCAA continues to make steps toward the expected settlement of the landmark House versus NCAA lawsuit and other related antitrust cases, there is pushback on how the NCAA plans to pay the expected $2.7 billion in back damages over the next decade, sources told ESPN. And I would still love to know who is getting this back pay in addition to the athletes playing right now. How far back? How is that being determined? The NCAA sent out a 4-page memo to all 32 Division I conferences this week, 32, detailing how the organization plans to cut back on distribution to leagues in 6 annual payout categories to pay the proposed $2.7 billion in damages. Well, I got to say, for as much criticism as I have and all of you have about the NCAA, at least they're not confronting this issue like the government would, saying, okay, we're not going to spend any less. We're just going to print money. We're just going to make something up. Man, I heard some comments the other day about the Social Security system that was nothing new to me. It was not new information, but just brought to light again what a scam that is and how that has just been robbery of all of us. That is just somebody should be held accountable, but of course we would have to hold a lot of people accountable, and the people to hold them accountable are themselves. So it's not going to happen. But again, just we're giving Kraft way too much airtime here. That the Social Security system is just a joke, and we all could have made so much more money by keeping that money and saving toward retirement. Okay, back to this. The memo detailed how the NCAA would split up an expected $1.6 billion that would come from reductions to NCAA distribution. Sources told ESPN the remaining $1.1 billion is expected to come from NCAA reserves, catastrophic insurance, new revenue, and budget cuts. Of that $1.6 billion, nearly 60% is expected to come from leagues outside the Power 5 that are named in the House lawsuit, sources said. You would think that very little would come from the G5 schools, since they don't have the athletes that it would be credited for generating this money. But we will find out more. For example, the cost annually for the Big East is projected at between 5.4 and 6.6 million over the next decade. According to a source familiar with the memo, the West Coast Conference, another successful basketball-centric league, is expected to annually pay between $3.5 and $4.3 million. The lowest level of annual payouts expected to be withheld for smaller leagues is just under $2 million, which I got to think is pretty significant for these smaller conferences, estimated to be more than 20% of what those leagues get from the NCAA annually. So basically, they're cutting more than 20% of their revenue for the next 5 or 6 years. Again, it's pretty harsh, but that seems to be the way that they'll need to do it. I'd like to know in all of this, and I'm not going to read all of this article. I may later in private, but what I want to know is, okay, it's been determined that these athletes should have been compensated for NIL. And that NIL, I'm thinking, unless I'm missing something here, has to be name, image, and likeness from video games and merchandise. Okay. So they did an exhaustive look at the revenue from those products, and then they determined that these athletes have earned $2.7 billion. Okay. How far back they went, I would like to know that. Number two, with a lot of these items, how did they differentiate? And then in terms of this conference breakdown, that's interesting as well. I wonder how much they ballparked these numbers versus how much they really dug into records. According to a source, the average overall revenue of a non-Power 5 school was $27 million in fiscal year 2022, a $330,000 per school reduction in distribution, according to a source, would come out to 1.2% in the school's average revenue. That's 27 million in different. That 27 million is different than the pure NCAA payouts referenced above. Yes, it is. It's much different. Okay, the payment of the back damages is only half of the picture. The proposed revenue sharing arrangement, nearly 20 million per campus for more than 60 campuses, would cost more than $1 billion annually and provide all of Division I protections from future similar lawsuits. That, according to ESPN at least, has been our number one story in college football going back to Friday. I saw that headline on Friday, and I was so interested in it that I went the entire weekend and did not read that article. All right, Florida State. Oh, yeah. So this makes total sense, at least on the surface. I've not read the article, not looked into it, but on the surface makes total sense that if all these inducements and pretty much all the things that the NCAA originally considered and tried to implement as guardrails, guidelines, and restrictions of NIL have basically been ruled to be unconstitutional, illegal, then you would think Florida State should be able to have its these penalties taken away. So Florida State has asked the NCAA to reduce and rescind penalties imposed on its football program for NIL-related recruiting violations after the sanctioning body halted investigations into booster-backed collectives. It states here in a letter coming from the chairperson of the Division I Committee on Infractions. The university is now disadvantaged by its cooperations and affirmative steps to expedite resolution of the case. Similar or more egregious violations involving prospective student athletes and other institutions, collectives, and boosters occurred during the same time period as the violations in the FSU case. Okay. they are arguing that there were more egregious violations elsewhere, and those have been rescinded. Therefore, theirs should be as well. Yeah, it seems to make total sense to me. Certainly can't hurt. Maybe there's something I'm missing there, but it seems to make total sense that Florida State would have, if the NCAA was going after, first of all, if the NCAA set up rules and guidelines that were later determined to be illegal, unconstitutional, and then number two, that because of that, all the ongoing investigations ceased, that the one investigation that came to fruition and was completed, that one investigation is illegal and unconstitutional as well. So looks like Florida State's got a pretty strong case there. We've got a meeting on the Golf Channel. What am I missing here? I'm missing the chat that's got to be so much more interesting than the two stories that I just read. Ralph would watch a group of 5 8-team playoff. If our buddy Keith is still in the chat, I believe he showed up earlier because we said hi to Keith, I do believe. But Keith's a Michigan fan. Keith called me the other night, and he is just all for this 30-team league. He says, kick all these schools to the corner, to the curb, kick them out. We don't want to see them play football. Forget watching Kansas play football and Wake Forest play football and Stanford play football. Don't care about watching them play football. I want to see great players play football. So I want to see 30, 40 teams max, and that's what I want to see. And I just don't want to see that. Don't want to see that. Yeah, I'm not going to run down that road unless you guys have any questions. But yeah, because we had the conversation. It's on video. It's on the last live stream. I think it's on the Big Ten show on Friday night. But I gave many reasons as to why I thought that was detrimental to college football and detrimental to its fan base, even those people that are fans of and root for teams that are in the cool club, that are the in crowd, that also that it could backfire to a large degree. Not that the sport's going to go away, not that it's not going to thrive with the type of matchups that we would see every week. Yes, we would have a concentration of just great games. We'd have Penn State playing Oregon and Alabama playing Oklahoma and Clemson playing Ohio State and Michigan playing Notre Dame. These games the schedule would be nothing but jam-packed with the worst games would be North Carolina's playing Minnesota and Texas A&M's playing Iowa. I don't know. The worst games would be really good games. But I did point out some reasons why. I personally don't like it, would not like it, don't want to see any of these. Yes. Can I go through a full football season and not watch any? I'm trying to think. Who did I not really watch play any football last year out of the Power Five? Arizona State. Did I really watch them play at all? I saw a little bit against USC. I saw a little bit I'm talking a couple drives against USC and a couple drives against Oklahoma State. There were probably some teams in the Big 12 that I didn't see, but now that I truly think about it, I was going to say Houston, but I watched Houston play West Virginia. They played on a Thursday or Friday night. I watched almost all that game. So I saw Houston play last year. Cincinnati, did I watch? Since they were awful last year, did I watch them play? Cincinnati might be the one team in the Power Five I don't recall watching them play at all. Did not see them. Cincinnati, BYU. Did I watch BYU play at all last year? I don't recall watching BYU, which is not usually the case. I don't think they played a good non-conference game. I think they played Arkansas, and then all those Big 12 games that were pretty meaningless because BYU was pretty bad. They go 2-7 in the conference. Didn't see BYU play. I usually recall who I watched play. No BYU last year for me. See, like Stanford, I think I did see Stanford play Colorado. I got into that game. That was a big comeback. I did see them play USC a little bit. Oregon State, Washington State, Cal. Did I see Cal play at all? They were playing Auburn late night, but I was on the air, but I wanted to see that. So I kind of checked in on the side, and I saw the very end of the USC game where they could have won the game, but I really didn't see Cal play. Again, probably saw 5 plays. So put them on the list. Cal, Arizona State. Arizona State I saw play. But Cincinnati and BYU, there might be a couple other teams. I saw everybody in the Big Ten play, for sure. Many times, multiple times. Did I see Vanderbilt play? No. I'm trying to think what their big non-conference here. Their big non-conference game was Wake. Didn't watch that. I think they had a week 0 game against Hawaii. I didn't even find time to watch that. And then they're always the worst SEC game of the week. So never watched. So no Vanderbilt for me last year. Now, I'm asking the real college football junkies out there, because I'm sure there are some of you that could name 40 teams that you didn't see play last year. But for a junkie like me, yeah, BYU, Cincinnati, Vanderbilt, anybody in the ACC. I think I saw everybody play. You know who I didn't see? The team that I saw least in the ACC was actually the team that I saw least in the ACC was actually a pretty good team, had a bounce back year, was Virginia Tech. When we did our TV ratings, I realized that Virginia Tech barely played on network TV. They were on the ACC network the entire season. Aside from playing Florida State, I think every other ACC game was on the ACC network. So I did not see Virginia Tech play. I remember tuning into Virginia Tech returning the second half kickoff against Florida State for a touchdown to close that game to like 22-17. And I thought, oh, we might have something here. And then it quickly turned within 3 or 4 plays, another touchdown for FSU. And we'll move on. Yes, Joey, Virginia Tech still plays football. I don't know if you would add up your record against theirs in the last 10 years. I think West Virginia would have a slight lead, not by much. I know West Virginia fans, Joey here likes to take digs at Pitt. Pitt's first on the list. I don't think there's any question about that. Pitt's number one, and then they've got a bunch of other teams. Virginia Tech's close to the top. Yeah, I'm big on recording games, and then I never watch them. And last year I did not have the capabilities to record. You know, Aaron, I gotta say, from time to time, I've got all sorts of thoughts on different channels. And one would be sports related that, you know, the NFL is so popular. And I guess they're not on my radar, but I'm sure once I would get into the NFL thing that I would start to see these NFL channels, and there's probably a zillion, there's probably 50 times more NFL channels than college football channels on YouTube, I would think, because it's much more popular. But I was thinking, you know, if YouTube was around, if YouTube had been around in the 90s and on, man, that would have been my sweet spot. That would have been my sweet spot to be on YouTube, because I was much more emotional. I was much more combative. I would have drawn a much more engaged, bigger audience by far. The 30-year-old Mark, as opposed to the 50-year-old Mark. Yes. And my knowledge was 100 times more. I was an NFL encyclopedia. Would have had an NFL show if this were 1995, NFL show and college football, and just cut me loose, let me go, and just rip people to shreds and spout knowledge. But there was a reason I brought that up. It still crosses my mind at times, because I do come across, there are so many channels out there. I've come across both in the sports realm, but even outside the sports realm, where people generally don't know what they're talking about. They're morons, and they're either, well, I can't call them complete morons because they have successful YouTube channels. So their approach, they're from a business standpoint, they're doing a good job, but they have no knowledge, or they have no ownership of the topic that they're delivering, but they just read a lot. On the air, they just read and interact with people and just kind of learn on the fly. So I'd start an NFL channel, and hey, I don't know the NFL right now, don't follow the NFL, don't really care about the NFL. I can still watch a game, but man, over the last couple of seasons, like I went from NFL junkie, hardcore, like knew everybody in the league, to like that dwindling. And most of that dwindling was not because I lost interest, but you have more important things to do in life that take you away from it. And then getting to a place where, okay, I don't care about free agency. I don't care to keep up with the NFL. Don't care to keep up with all of this business, but I still enjoy watching the games. That's about where I was about 5 years ago. I could just watch the games. Like I was actually disappointed and would be frustrated on Sunday afternoons, because I would be doing this, working on the voice of college football, but I would want to be watching the NFL. So I'd have the NFL on, but I couldn't really watch it, soak it in, really focus on it. So all these great finishes would happen and I'd miss them. So that's where I was about 5 years ago. I still loved watching the NFL, but I wasn't into the day-to-day operations, transactions part of it. Now, the last couple of years, I got to tell you, man, the Super Bowl, I had to like force myself to watch the Super Bowl. like we did a post-game show here after the Super Bowl, and I got to tell you, there were like 10 times during that game I had the remote in my hand, and I was like, that was the Super Bowl. And then during the regular season, yeah, there were a couple times I got into it. And then the other times, man, if you would have told me even 10 years ago, if you would have told me, Mark, there are going to be Sunday afternoons in the fall that it's going to hit 1 o'clock and you won't even remember that the NFL is starting, I would have said, you're crazy. You are crazy. But there were tons of Sunday afternoons the last couple of years during the NFL season where it was like 2:45 in the afternoon. And I thought, oh, yeah, there are NFL games on today. And sometimes I'd be like, okay, let's flip it on, see what's going on. Other times I'd be like, eh. And I'd go the entire Sunday and have really no contact with what was going on. Chris says the Taylor Swift effect. Yeah, Taylor Swift's situation had no impact on me in terms of watching the NFL, other than they would show her 13 times a game, and I would just be like, okay, well, that had zero impact on my interest in the NFL. It didn't raise it or yes, either one. Neither one. I was reading Joey's note about West Virginia and Virginia Tech. Yeah, that would have been about my guess. Yeah. That's a so if West Virginia won 73 games in the last 10 years, if we're doing the rough math, they're playing 12 to 13 per year. So they lost probably 50, 53, 55 games. And that means Virginia Tech's more like 65. And so West Virginia is winning 55 to 58% of its games, and Virginia Tech's more like 52%. Jack Straw likes Colin Cowherd talking college football. I don't know what that's in response to, but I used to watch Colin Cowherd. Well, first of all, he was at ESPN when I was there for a long time. And so I would see him from time to time, and I would lead tours through his studio and talk to him. And I always thought he was super, super talented. That show that he did with Michelle Beadle, I thought was one of the most creative things that ESPN's ever done. I think it's one of the best studio shows they've ever done. It's better than anything I can think of. That is the best studio outside of like Baseball Tonight. But I'm talking about that's kind of off the beaten path. That is, I don't remember the name of it, but that is the best show I can think of that ESPN has ever done. Better than PTI, yes. Anyway, I got into a rhythm for a year, whatever the time frame was, where I would watch Cowherd. I'd have him on, I think I was still at ESPN, or right around the time I left, and I'd be working from home. That's probably where it started, working from home. And then left ESPN, working from home. I'd watch Cowherd, and then I get into and out of habits non-intentionally. Like nothing told me, or I didn't tell myself, I have no interest in Cowherd anymore. I'm going to stop watching him. Just something happened in life where my life changed and something happened to change my patterns. And I have not watched him in a long time, a couple of years. Now, in terms of his college football, that's a bit, he has a vast knowledge of sports, and his concepts are really high level smart. Very smart guy. Now, does he know the ins and outs of college football? No. Let's not mistake him for some kind of college football guy. All right. Joey, really? We're going to plane flights. Okay. Anyway. Behind the Lines. Yeah, that was a good show. That was a good show. Our buddy Chris 24M. So first of all, Chris, this is the first time I've seen you comment. And since you are a Georgia fan, I will let you know that we have big plans this summer for SEC football. So we will do a better job of covering the SEC. Not that we've not done an outstanding job of covering the SEC. Of course we have. Sure, we have. And we've got a Georgia channel and we've got an SEC channel. So the plan is to start an SEC show that will be once a week, and then we'll ramp up to, should I go ahead and say it? When we get to media days, every day. When we get to media days, Big Ten show every day. And I know it's going to happen. I know it's going to happen when I go to a daily, and it's going to be a tight show. It's not going to be this hanging out for 3.5 hours crap where this is like just kind of wandering off into anything. No, can't do that. Tight schedule. Boom. Hour packed, action packed, information packed, analysis packed, 1 hour, Big Ten show every day, SEC show every day. And I know because when I released those Big 12 rankings last week, I heard from some of the biggest morons in the history of this channel. And that is a huge statement about my Big 12 rankings. And also some of this was on Twitter when I didn't even make opinionated statements. That's what's funny. It had nothing had anything to do with opinion. I'm just putting facts and statistics and results out there. And I had just this backlash of these Big 12 morons that were going nuts about me hating the Big 12. Okay. So anyway, I'm sure I will have some of those because we'll do an SEC show and a Big Ten show. If I had the support, if we had enough support here where if I had like a salesperson and other people involved, then I would do a Big 12 show. I would love to do a Big 12 show every day, but we kind of have to see what's happening in college football, and the Big Ten and the SEC are huge priorities. So if I can only find when they're hour shows, it sounds like it's only a 2-hour commitment, but it's obviously much more than that. Then we will start with that. But I would love to do a Big 12 show every day. But I got to say that I was highly disappointed with at least the Big 12 fans that commented to the channel the last couple of weeks, because their understanding of football was zero and their reasoning ability was zero. All right. Yes, Ralph. Best show in the history of ESPN, Baseball Tonight, back in its day. It's obviously, even if they would do it now, it's not needed. There's this thing called the internet. All right, folks, we appreciate you being here. And breakfast today. And man, I got completely grilled. And for anyone who is joining us late, for anyone who's joined us just here in the last few minutes or last hour, we made the announcement off the top of the show that this is the final edition of Wake Up College Football. I got called onto the carpet by the suits, and they let me know, Mark, you are, I won't say it. They said, this wake up college football idea was a piece of garbage, and you either had a bad idea or you didn't execute it. And I thought we had a good idea. I thought we had a good idea here, but we did not. So this was part of it. Was we were going to make breakfast every day, and we were going to have some viewer interaction with the breakfast selections every day, and we were going to make some things and make that kind of part of the whole deal. But we'll get back to college football, I guess, strictly. But hey, for one last time, we'll see what's for breakfast. I don't believe that we have any cereal. And I did buy bacon the other day. We still have eggs, bacon and eggs, the old standby. Yeah, I'm kind of sick of that. Does not in any way entice me to have breakfast this morning thinking of bacon and eggs. So we're going to go a little cleaner than that. So I got this. I've had this before. I had the dark chocolate variety, but this is a rather expensive cereal. So having a constant struggle between, okay, the food that I like is bad for me. That's all there is to it. Yeah, just about everything I like is bad for me. And then, so I'm trying to eat better, of course. And then on top of that, a lot of the choices to eat better, if you're outside of the like fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, but even those getting expensive. And like anything you pick up, like I'll look at these protein drinks now, and I'll look at a 24 pack of protein drinks and they'll be like $40. I'll be like, good Lord. So everything's just gotten so expensive. So this is what cracks me up too. I buy chicken where they do the same thing, but the bag is huge and there's like this much chicken in the bottom of the bag. Same thing with the cereal here. Now I did have one bowl. It says that there are, oh, this one only says 7 servings per container. So are there going to be 6 more bowls in that? Looks like 2. I think we've got 3 servings in this bag. It says 7. And what is all this? Did they need that much bag to tell us all the good information? Is that what they did here? Or did they just need this much bag because, yeah, they did need all that information, or to fool us into thinking, oh, I got this bag of cereal. Then you got this bag of cereal is what you've got. But it's got 0 sugar. Does it taste good? No. Does it taste bad? No. It's just kind of neutral, kind of just there. So it's got no sugar, and it's plant-based. But I also have to realize for everything I add into my life like this, it's not going to do me much good if I still eat. Like over the last couple of days, I had a lot of fudge brownies. At a friend's house, I had fudge brownies as well, or some type of brownies in a little ice cream thing. But I bought fudge brownies and I bought chocolate chip cookies. Didn't take me long to eat those. I bought those on Friday night by, less than 2 days, day and a half. Chocolate chip cookies gone, fudge brownies gone. Now, hopefully I can stay away from the store because I won't purchase that stuff. But so introducing this kind of stuff into my life might be good in a way. Of course, it's good, but if I don't counter it by eliminating other stuff, but that's the goal. You fill your stomach with other stuff that's good for you, and then you crave this less. So I'm standing there looking at protein bars, and I don't purchase these on any regular basis, but this is the best I could do. And again, I'm just flabbergasted and floored by the size of these little tiny bars and how much they cost. It's just, wow. The food prices in this country, I could rant and just go off the rails on this for the next hour, and because you guys all know it. And there are certain people in government that obviously, based on the comments that they make, don't purchase groceries, or maybe they're just lying to us and they understand the state of the economy and inflation, but they just deny it. I think it's the latter. But I also think that they're ignorant too. So we've got 4 of these bars. So like I could eat these in an afternoon, but I got to try to be, so that this should cover 4 days. That's what it comes down to. And 1 gram of sugar. Now, what's this doing for me besides just filling my stomach without adding too much sugar to it? 12 grams of protein. I don't know how many I should have per day. According to this, if these facts are correct, these nutrition facts, then we should roughly have 60 grams of protein per day, because it says that this is basically 24% of your protein requirement per day. Who knows? So anyway, I'm going to have some combination of these 2 things for breakfast. And I've got some blueberries that need to be eaten. So that's pretty healthy. That is an extremely healthy breakfast. Yes, it is. And bacon and eggs. Yeah, I don't know when I'm going to have the stomach for bacon and eggs again. Just have had way too much of that over the last few years. Mark's here. Good to see you, sir. Hey, Mark, you gave it, morning show, the college try. You gave it a shot. Respect you for it. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. As they say, if you don't kick the ball off, you can't run it back. Exactly. So, as they say about failure, failure is not necessarily permanent, and that you always just keep trying. So the ultimate failure is not trying. So that will never happen. That will never happen in life. I can't guarantee it will not happen here on this channel or on the series of channels on our network that will never shut down, of course. That could happen at some point, but that will never happen in life. We will not give up on life. All right. So do appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football for our final edition of Wake Up College Football. On that note, that's a good final note right there, Mark. Thank you for that. Check out our Bible channel for, of course, hearing from the good book and some much more meaningful things from us. You can, I don't think there's a link in the description section anymore, but it's called the Word by Word. And so, again, we're going to come back in a few weeks with a morning headlines delivery. We are going to deliver a video every morning on the headlines of college football. So we are still going to morph this into something meaningful that's hopefully going to be much more easy for people to find through search engines. So appreciate you being here. I'm back in, oh, shoot, I forgot. I'm on in 25 minutes. So we will set up for that. Appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football.